Hi, I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're here at FedTalks with Jason Brown, Strategic Cloud Advisor at Google Cloud. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Wyatt. Really glad to be here.
Let me start by asking, how has federal technology played a critical role in 2020 as an unprecedented pandemic has rocked the nation?
That's a great question. And, there really is two ways that federal technology has essentially kept everything running. And the first is just responding to the crisis. So crisis response has depended heavily on the ability for our federal agencies to leverage their technology and in many cases, new ways to be able to deal with a crisis we haven't seen in a century. And then the second is continuity of operations. The federal government had to adapt very quickly. I was in the government when we were told we had to go work from home, and we had to very quickly figure out how we were going to collaborate. And so one of the things that we were able to do is start to collaborate at a scale that we really didn't understand. And what we've seen, at Google and I'm confident in many other private sector companies, is our ability to collaborate at scale is really, a paradigm shift for many folks. Certainly in the government, I think there have been some incredible new and innovative ways to use technology, but the opportunity now to collaborate at scale, to solve problems, to continue the operations of government in support of the nation, and then respond to the crisis has been really critical.
Well, next, let me ask, how can the federal government build on that and maybe even leapfrog ahead in using modern and emerging technologies like cloud and AI and automation?
Yeah, the great stories that we've seen out of an accelerated digital transformation have really inspired, I think, a lot of thinking about how do we take the next step. The straightforward answer, I think, is to evolve out of the legacy architectures that the federal government is currently depending on, specifically to close down and move their data centers and the functionality of those centers and move to the cloud. So federal government has well over 12,000 data centers that they operate. I would love to see an ambitious goal of reducing those data centers by 75% in the next 12 years. I think an effort like that, an endeavor like that, would be the cornerstone or the foundation to really accelerate digital transformation in ways that we could only imagine.
Well, next, how is the federal government working in new and creative ways to bring talented technologists to its workforce to help facilitate that kind of transition?
Well, there's been, I think, some really great initiatives to try to reduce the timelines of onboarding, to reduce the timelines from getting someone into the federal government, or the whole concept of and the process of actually applying and getting these technology jobs. That said, honestly, I haven't seen anything really take hold and scale. And something that happened 2 years ago, and it was reported in FedScoop, was a White House summit about this concept of digital civic leave. And what I really hope is that the conversation around that idea can be regenerated, and especially here in the pandemic, revisited, because I think we were on to something back then. This idea of having folks in the technology sector spend a period of time, a year, 2 years, working inside government and being able to bring their skills and their perspective, and then also learn the perspectives and the challenges that exist inside the federal government, and then bring that back into private industry. So I really hope this idea of digital civic leave can be revisited, certainly as part of the lessons from the pandemic.
Well, and lastly, Jason, since you recently moved from government over to the private sector, what other trends or priorities do you see on your radar as we head into 2021?
Well, I think the digital transformation movement is only going to continue to accelerate. I think that there's certainly a lot of interest in predictive analytics and artificial intelligence to advance and transform the way that a lot of governments actually conduct business. I think some of the areas that we'll see a lot of activity, and we've seen this at Google in our public sector business, which is health. Health is going to be and leveraging data analytics, leveraging digital technologies and capabilities, leveraging AI in health, I think is only going to grow. AI for weather is an area that I'm working on and right now to start to look at better predictions with our weather models. Also logistics and supply chain. And really one of the lessons from the pandemic is really understanding the impact to enterprise readiness. And that involves really understanding what the impact of something like the coronavirus or a natural disaster or other things could have on your supply chain. So applying digital technologies and emerging technologies to those things, I think we're going to see a lot of trends in that direction.
Terrific. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us here at FedTalks. We really appreciate your time.
You bet. Thanks for having me.